One Paulie incident from the first novel isn't adapted in Reacher Season 3, which would have made you despise him even more. Reacher Season 3 stays very close to its original content, just like its predecessors. Although it makes certain adjustments to Lee Child's Persuader, it mostly sticks to the book's plot. Similar to Persuader, it depicts Reacher's involvement in an undercover investigation to uncover a rug seller's dubious business partnership with Quinn, his erstwhile adversary. Additionally, Season 3 of the Amazon Prime Video detective series appropriately depicts how Paulie, one of Quinn's goons, ends up being the most vicious and frightening enemy Jack Reacher has ever met. Like the novel, the show shows how Paulie is objectively stronger than Reacher in addition to being taller and more muscular. However, Reacher Season 3 appears to purposefully overlook a story beat that would have given Paulie an even more terrifying appearance. Paulie is presented in the program as a vicious, terrifying giant who is capable of taking down Jack Reacher with a single stroke. The show makes sure that viewers get the extent of Paulie's threat by showcasing his turbulent military history and disclosing how, while serving in the military, he even brutally assaulted one of his senior officers. Episode 5 of Reacher Season 3 also depicts Paulie murdering a maid in Zachary Beck's house after discovering she is a secret ATF agent. These kinds of scenes make Paulie extremely terrifying and demonstrate his complete lack of mercy. The series, however, does not include Mrs. Beck, who is frequently tortured by Paulie in the original novel. The show doesn't include Mrs. Beck at all, which would have made Paulie's treatment of Zachary Beck's wife much more disgusting. It only suggests that Mrs. Beck died a long time before Reacher's events, which also have a big effect on Zachary Beck's connection with his son Richard. Although Paulie appears somewhat less reprehensible due to her absence from the show's plot, he is nonetheless just as terrifying as his fictional counterpart. Paulie has no regrets about killing the maid, and he dismisses the murder with an unrepentant oops when Alan Ritchson's Jack Reacher confronts him about it. It is difficult not to think that Reacher will use Paulie to teach him a lesson in a matter of seconds, as he has demonstrated this ability in the past. Surprisingly, though, Paulie hardly bats an eye as Reacher strikes him in the ribs. Paulie strikes Reacher in the face and knocks him to the ground as he, like a spectator, finds it difficult to comprehend the giant's overwhelming strength. In the following scene, Reacher examines the red marks Paulie's slap left on his face while spitting blood in his bathroom sink. The slap scene emphasizes how Paulie does not even need brains to overpower Reacher because his brawn is sufficient, despite the fact that Reacher was able to outsmart him in an earlier Reacher Season 3 episode by forcing him to hit himself. Even without the Mrs. Beck plot beats from the original Lee Child Jack Reacher books, he appears intimidating and disgusting due to his enormous size advantage over Reacher, military experience, and psychopathic tendencies. In an attempt to shed light on the book change, Lee Child, the author of the Jack Reacher series, stated that Mrs. Beck's arc was a nasty strand, and it produced even more revulsion against Paulie in the book. But we felt we don't need more revulsion. He also added that they wanted to concentrate more on the criminal conspiracy in Reacher because, as one glance at Paulie in the series was enough to establish that he would become Reacher's biggest challenge, Lee Child and the show's creators believed that his demeanor was sufficient to sell him as a formidable villain, without the gratuitous mistreatment of Mrs. Beck.